Session for Monday, June 1st, 2026. It's 6 p.m. We're here in the Village Hall Boardroom. And Megan, would you take roll call, please?
Trustee Riggs?
Here.
Trustee Bonaski?
Good evening.
Trustee Wojka?
Here.
Trustee Nazarian?
Here.
Mayor Domeretz?
Here. I think Trustee Bonaski has the land acknowledgement. Would you give the land acknowledgement, please?
Before we begin this evening, we would like to recognize the Seneca Nation on whose ancestral territory we are gathering. The present-day village of Fairport sits on traditional Seneca land. The Seneca Nation, with the Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Tuscarora, make up the sovereign Haudenosaunee Confederacy. With respect, we acknowledge the people of the Seneca Nation on whose land we now live. We honor their past, present, and future contributions to and stewardship of this land.
Thank you. Okay. The only item that we have under new business tonight is the sustainability plan overview. And it's actually a continuation of some old business that we started, but it's nothing that we're going to take a vote on or anything like that this evening. What I provided you all with was this stapled document, and I'll explain what's in there. I gave everybody a highlighter, so you have a highlighter to draw on your document with or to take notes with. And the first part of this, so the first, 30 pages of this is the updated 2023 plan, but I've gone in there and added the goals that came from the old document, along with there's information in there about suggestions that are coming. So let me go back to the old document first, which is in the back. This plan was created in August of 2010. Matt Engels from Engels Planning Design created it, and it has 10 chapters in it. And the committee is listed on page 1. Those are the group of people that worked together on this plan back in 2010. In 2019, Brian, 2021, I'm having trouble putting the date together that we went through this in a work session. I know Matt was on the board at that point in time. I don't remember who else was on the board, if it was Mike and Emily or if it was Kevin and Tim when we went through it. But what we did as a group is went through all of the items that are in the table at the back of this document, and we started to document what was completed, what was in progress, what was still out there that nobody was taking any action on at that time. I don't know that this document is updated with that information. Do you have any idea? No? Okay. So, in the back, there are a whole bunch of items. So under energy, it starts with 1.1 is the first item under chapter 1. And then you get into the 2s, and each chapter has a list that goes behind it. Those lists are what were included in the appendix of the new document. However, as we start to go through the new document, you will see some new beginning chapter headings. You will see some of the items that are carried from that old document that were placed at the beginning of each new section of new action items. And if you need to refer back for those items that are included in here, you have this document to refer back to. And you can find the items in that document. So my intention tonight is to go through this chapter by chapter until people say, I am flying my white flag, can we stop here? And start talking about what the content is in this chapter and have a discussion about it from the standpoint of there will be things in this document that are not actionable from a village perspective. Some things could be actionable or may require a partnership with another organization for us to work together on. And then some things will be actionable from the village. So my intention with this tonight is to start off with chapter 1, read and understand the basics at the beginning of the chapter. And then we'll go through the items and discuss them. And if we have questions, this document that we come away with from tonight will give us a baseline to hand over to the village staff, because they're going to review it and they're going to say, okay, this is something we can work on, this is something we can't work on, this is something that we could work together and help encourage in our community, because there are items in here as we read through that we can help encourage it, but we don't have a direct line of action to take on it. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about what I just described? Okay, so if you look at the table of contents, Brian has a black and white copy over there, but in your copy, if you look at the table of contents, you'll see black headings, and then there are 3 green headings. Those 3 green headings were directly lifted from the original document because they were left out of the new document. So as we go through this chapter by chapter, it matches the chapters that occur in the original document now, so that you can say, all right, we're on chapter 1, energy. What did we have in 2010 or in the updated? And I've included in here, in the new part of this, the goals that were listed at the old part, because each chapter should have a goal. If it's energy, what is it that what's the goal we're trying to achieve with it? So in the case of energy, if you go back to the original chapter, to reduce our use of non-renewable energy sources through conservation and utilize renewable energy sources when practical. So that was, now, is that written in stone that has to be the goal moving forward? Maybe not. Maybe we edited a little bit, but we need something to start with. It's a starting point to begin. So if we go into the document, there's the background that talks about the original plan, and then it talks about the updated team that was put together in 2020, and they met in February of 2022, and then their plans as they input them to this. There's the chapters. The group of people listed on the back of page 1 are the Sustainability Committee members. So thank you to Natasha Besh-Turner, Matthew Brown, Timothy Castelline, Patrick Domeratz, Brett Goronsky, Jessica Cruzet, Brendan Mance, Emily Mance, Pam Renfro, and Valerie Swyko for contributing to this document. And they all work together as a team to contribute to this, to the completed document. So the first bullet there, or the first paragraph there, is just 2 paragraphs about sustainability. So here's the option. You can say, Julie, would you read it to us? Or you can say, let us just read through it, and if we have questions, we'll ask them. Would you like to just read through them? Because I really don't want to read this document aloud, unless somebody needs me to. So I think there's a key highlight. None of the interventions that are recommended by this updated plan are intended to be profitable to the village. A village does not operate on a profit margin. A village operates with providing services to the community. So that's I think that that statement doesn't really apply, because nothing that we do here is designed to have a profit.
Well, real quick, when they're saying that, do they mean in general raise funds? Or is that what they mean by profit?
I don't know what the next part of the sentence says. Almost all will require outlay of funds garnered through taxes or grants.
Right.
We're not a profit. We're not a profit-making organization, so I really don't think it applies.
Well, right, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If what they mean by profitable is like,
generate revenue,
exactly.
cost to implement no matter what.
Right, are there going to be fees or anything that we might charge in here, so maybe profitable isn't the word, but a revenue generator. But I'm not sure, that's me guessing now, because maybe they did mean profitable, right?
That would be, let's talk about thinking about that
Yeah,
with the charging stations in the village.
Mm-hmm.
While there's a revenue generation, it goes directly into the sustaining of those items. So I guess you could see that as a revenue generator, but
Right.
it gets invested directly back into keeping those operational.
right.
I put a question at the side. I just said revenue generator, and we can talk about it further. I can ask staff for their feedback on that. Is there anything else in the next paragraph that anybody has questions about or comments?
Can I back up for a second?
Sure.
I wasn't around at the time that this all happened, so how was this sustainability committee established?
We put out a call out to the community
Okay.
and said, we are looking for folks who would like to participate on this.
Okay.
And we held interviews with, Deb was still here then, and I think Matt and Deb and I, because Matt was the leader for this,
Got it.
from his role on the village board, that we held interviews with all the individuals who said they were interested in doing this. And I would say that all of the individuals who volunteered, with the exception of one who did not live in the village, were accepted to be on the committee
Great. Okay, that's my only question.
to give feedback. And
Thank you.
a lot of these people have industry knowledge,
Yeah.
so Jessica Cruzet works in planning. I think Brendan and Emily both, I think that's Emma, I'm not sure it's Emily, I think it might
That
be.
is Emma.
It's Emma, not Emily. I don't know where that came from. They both work in the planning industry. Val and Pam were members of the community who were interested in sustainability. So there were a bunch of different viewpoints that came to the table.
Awesome, thank you.
And why don't you just explain the rest of the people on the list?
Natasha works with Color Fairport Green and has a lot of interest in sustainability. Matt is involved, well, he was involved from the standpoint of being on the village board and helped spearhead composting, and was also the liaison to the tree board. So he was very interested in starting this. Tim Castellane, another village resident, works in the planning industry. Pat was interested in participating and has some neighborhood development background. Brett works in the architectural planning industry. Again, Jessica, Brendan, Emma, all of those folks have a background either in architecture or planning and design or some related field. Any other questions about these first two paragraphs?
I mean, I think one thing that we'll just have to keep in mind is as we go through these, the recommendations, something that I'm sure we'll be asking staff to take a look at is how does one measure, some of these
Yep.
things? How frequently do we need to do that? How much time does that take? Because that's something else to balance in terms of, can
Absolutely.
we do this now? Can we do it later? Do we build to that? Right, so you're not just saying, all right, we're gonna incur, take X amount of time when we haven't planned it within those departments.
Correct.
Not saying that we don't do it, but just like understanding what we're walking into.
It's a discussion. Just, I think the example that I used, geothermal, was, I used that to have a discussion with a staff member to say, while geothermal can be done in the village, most village properties do not have enough land to do it. And it's so expensive that for many individuals in this community, it would be cost prohibitive, and you have to have enough land to do it. So there's one geothermal installation in the village along with FMC. FMC is also a geothermal installation. Is it likely that anybody else is gonna be able to make that investment or have enough property to do it? Probably not, but there's nothing wrong with including it as it would be great if people could do this, but most people are not gonna have the space or the amount of money to invest in it.
Okay. Interested to keep going with that conversation. Some folks I can introduce us to, but I don't want to put the.
Yeah, let's
Good so far
not
down
work
the road.
on solutions. Let's start at the beginning. So, that's something that I don't remember if it was in the last plan or if it shows up again in this plan, but that's an example. The other thing I tried to use as a guidepost is as we go through here, if money was no object, is this something that could be done or that the village has control over? Money may be a factor in keeping it from ever happening, but that doesn't mean that we should rule it out. It may likely never happen because of the money factor, but is that a reason to rule it out? I don't know. We can discuss it. All right. Anything else? All right. So how this plan is organized, basically it's there's 7 sections. There's actually 10 sections because I brought the 3 back from the dead and put them in this document. So we'll get to those. Adam, I took your note. How can these be measured, and timing and resources? Okay. So if we move on to the first one, energy, there's a whole bunch of paragraphs. There's 4 paragraphs there. The energy goal, which I don't know if it stays exactly the same or if it gets edited, but I think as we start to go through here, that some of these should give us an idea about the use of energy and what's being suggested in here, and is that an accurate goal or does it need to be edited? So if you want to look through chapter 1, why don't we just go through we'll go through 1 paragraph at a time. Does that work out okay? Everybody just read to the end of paragraph 1. So I'm going to ask you, since you're sitting here, Brian, the sentence that the municipal commission known as Fairport Electric receives an allocation of up to 77.6 megawatts per month of hydropower. Is that an accurate statement, or is that kind of varies?
No, it's fairly accurate. I think it changes with, it can change if you have a load that comes on or off.
Sorry.
Yeah, that number can change with respect to, say, for instance, if Ledestri was coming off, right, which we learned that Ledestri's sticking around for a little while now, which is great. If that load was coming off and that load was given to them and could have preference power issues with respect to spur economic development, right? So if there was another municipal electric entity that was bringing in a new customer or a giant plant or something to spur economic, they could always take some of that power and reallocate that to other places through the New York Power Authority. So yeah, can it change? Yes. Does that happen overnight or a lot? No. But it's fairly accurate.
Would it be fair to put a little star at the end and say over time this could change?
Yeah, we can do an asterisk or something like that.
Okay.
And I'll confirm all those to make sure that
Yeah.
they're accurate and so forth, but it's fairly close.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about paragraph 1?
So just a clarification about the the megawatts. that's how much we can purchase every month at the reduced rate.
So we have that much allocated to us in the New York Power Authority. Most of the time, we don't use all of that energy in a given day. It just depends on what the load is. Like right now, it's today, like you're not running heat, you're not running air conditioning, right? It's a beautiful day. Unfortunately, we're stuck in here, right? But so those days when it's the dog days of August and it's 95 degrees, everyone's cranking that up and everybody's running their air condition, you'll exceed that number probably, right? But you have that much power available to you should you need it. Because the plants, the hydroelectric plants, the 10 turbines that are sitting at the Robert Moses plant in Niagara Falls, has the ability to produce, I don't know how many, what's the collective megawatt per day that it could turn out and use and put on the grid. And of that, we have a guaranteed set amount of megawatts that we can use for our franchise every single day.
At the preferred power
At
rate.
the preference power rate, preference power being that low cost rate of hydropower.
But there are some days that we may not use it.
There's a lot of days we don't use it all, and there's some days that we exceed that. So most of the time we are a winter peaking entity, as you guys have heard. So meaning most of our power usage is in the winter, and that's generally due through electric heat and sustained cold days. Like we had a very cold year this year, and we had some challenges with that. So what you saw was power bills much higher than normal that we would see like at a time right now. Some of that's due to we hedge or purchase in advance power, knowing what we generally would use in the wintertime that exceeds on average what our preference or allocation would be. So we go out and hedge some of that power early because we know at least, hey, we'll use 10 more megawatts a day or whatever the case may be in February and March, right? But we never go to the full extent, but you can at least have 90% of what maybe your liability might be covered. And then if there's anything more, then it's generally purchased on the open market, right? As you need it on demand. And that's where the costs get kind of high. But at least when you're using hedged power, supplemental power as we call it, at least you know what your exposure is. You can plan for it. You can budget saying, hey, instead of buying it at, a penny a kilowatt hour, you could be buying it at 6 or 7 cents. So there's that risk of doing it, but we never generally over hedge what we think we're going to do. We do averages based on what's happening. We have significant consultants that assist us with determining weather and trying to understand El Nino and all these other things. It really gets intense with that review. And then we go out collectively for all 47 munis in this state, and that's what we do on the MUA and NIPA side when we're always spending time in Syracuse. It's not just free dinners. It's a significant amount of work associated with just doing that, understanding the grid, understanding the power, understanding the challenge, what's happened with the market economies, and what are the power generating sources that are going to be online this fall, this winter, what's the transmission changes. Like all of that is kept up on so we can make. Yes, I know I'm going down the rabbit hole, so I'll be quiet. But yes,
You saw
Okay.
that. That was pretty good. You caught
that's very
that.
good. Sorry, it's there's a
You-
lot to
do
it.
you have more of a question, Tracy?
I do. Monthly versus daily. I heard you use both. Like in a day, we might exceed our daily, but it doesn't come out of our monthly. Explain daily and monthly. That's where we have a
This
monthly
document
amount.
says monthly. Should it be daily? Or is it a different number that's the daily number?
I'll check on that what it
Okay.
is, but essentially we have so much power on a given day that the plant on a daily that the plant produces, and we are guaranteed almost up to X amount of kilowatt hours. And generally, we don't always use that. So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
And we get that allocation, and it's guaranteed to us through a contractual long-term agreement with the New York Power Authority.
So Brian's going to follow up on that and get that correct number of whether it's 77.6.
But it's
monthly
based on
or
a daily allocation, and you can take the daily times whatever W days in a month, and that'll be your monthly allotment.
I guess the way my brain was thinking was, you don't use it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We give it away, our daily. But then on Thursday and Friday, we're over.
Yeah, you don't get the compound and save it in your pocket like vacation days to use later. No,
So it's a,
I like the way you're
Use it
thinking.
or lose
though.
it.
I like the way you're thinking. Yeah, Yeah, once power is used, it has to be, once power is generated, it must be used, right? It's not just sitting in a bank somewhere for you to pull it when you want to. I mean, I wish that was the case. That's what they're trying to do right now with renewables, right? So, but the problem with renewables is if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So sometimes you'll go through and you'll see a wind turbine that's not turning. It's not because it's broken, it's because there's not enough people pulling that power in order to justify the turbine turning. And there's no way to store that power when it's created with those fan blades, so they don't turn. So you'll notice, like, why aren't we taking advantage of that on a beautiful day that we got 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds and half the wind farm isn't turning? That's why. That's the only reason why. There's not enough consumption to justify the turning of those blades to use it all. And there's no way to store
Let's
it.
not even get and talk about
We're not.
transmission.
Yeah.
At least not yet. Thank you.
I think we're going to do a nice little, I'm going to bring electric in here. We're going to kind
that
of
would
do
be
like a
good.
little education 101 on
But I
kind of
think
how this all
helps
works
too,
and
because this brings up questions.
how the grid works a little more at a high level. I think it'd be interesting for you and understand kind of where it's coming from.
Tracy, do you feel okay on that question?
Yeah.
Would you
it's-
guys like
it's-
that? Maybe
it's
we could do like a
daily
little electric.
as well as a monthly, so it's, I get it.
And we'll make sure that we get the correct numbers to explain that. Anybody else have any questions on the first paragraph? Okay, well, let's move on to the second paragraph. Anybody have questions or comments about that paragraph?
I know it was something that we spoke about during the FMC budget talks, but the second sentence, the adjustments that will be required of our infrastructure to allow for the corresponding increase in the use of home electricity is just one of the challenges that we will face over the coming decade. And I know we had that conversation regarding FMC and how we are not a creator of electricity. We are not we, FMC is a distributor of electricity. So I'm just curious if Brian knows what kind of adjustments would be required from village infrastructure.
If I remember that conversation right now, my takeaway from that conversation was, we're in good shape right now. But
Right.
We can't,
That's
we
my-
don't have a crystal ball.
It wasn't like,
I think it was like planning for.
it was planning for increased use, but that it wasn't like our systems necessarily. It was the general transmission of power to FMC for distribution that may need upgrade.
It's
The
not
grid across New
may.
York State.
It does.
They do,
That is the Jersey barrier in the middle of the highway right now. Transmission is a huge challenge. There's new transmission coming online all the time. There's 3 massive transmission projects going on in the state right now. A lot of it to feed New York City. Some of it's even being laid through Lake Champlain on the bottom of the ocean and coming through, trying to get power from Canada through the North Country and downstate to Albany and downstate further. But it's neither here nor there. But yes, while we are every day, we have new electric devices in our lives that come on. So are we using more power or is the demand higher? Sure. But every day things become much more efficient, right? So while there's a lot of efficiencies in what's going on, the days of incandescent bulbs, I mean, you're talking about going from a 9-watt or a 7-watt bulb to something that was 60 to 100 all day long. Just think, I mean, that's a 10-fold decrease in what you're doing based on how it's applying. So machines and operations and how they all operate do the same thing. Electric motors for industry standards. So all of that's happening. So when we say that, we don't have our current operation, the way the village is and our ability to grow within our footprint of our franchise, not just the village. We have the ability to meet today's needs and future needs without any type of increased preference power allocation. However, if there are going to be new things such as, I'm just using this as an example, we want, or there's a state mandate to electrify buses. When you're talking about everything charging at the same time and you have a bus fleet of 80 buses and they're all pulling from that, that is a massive amount of power all happening at once. So the challenge with that is they're all being used at once, so they all have to be charged at the same time, right? So how does that work? How do you fluctuate that? The big thing is generally you have enough power. It comes down to everybody needing it at the same time, which that's what impacts your demand. You want to keep that as low as possible. You don't want this happening, spikes in your distribution system. So when you can have load that is flat, right, that's what you seek to have so that you're not, because otherwise you have to build your infrastructure and distribution system to the capacity of meeting that one demand that may happen between 7 and 7:30 when we peak in the morning, we peak in the evening. So when all of us wake up, turn on the light, grab our phone, check Facebook, hop in the shower, the water heater starts going, all the things that are happening, it peaks in the morning, then it flatlines throughout the day because we're all at work and all that kind of helps us. Then all of us get home between 5 and 7 o'clock and we're cooking, we're cleaning, every light goes on in the house when it gets dark. So you want to try to plan for those things. So when you find load, like there's a flat line that works pretty good. So, but yeah, we're in pretty decent shape outside of some significant overhaul.
So I'm going to ask, there's a couple of sentences in here. Maybe we can talk about challenges occur with everybody using energy at the same time. So where the planning really needs to happen is for how do we encourage load balancing?
So that's happening, it's just slow. So a lot of that's human behavior, but there are things going into place now like smart meters where, say for instance, let's use something you can relate to, like, okay, let's talk about charging a car, right? Generally you're gonna go home and I drove all day and I get home from work and it's 6 o'clock and it's like, before I walk in for the night, Tracy's going to plug her car in, right? I'm not going to go out there at midnight and do it. Well, now you can plug your car in and say, you know what? I'm not going to charge at 5 o'clock when demand's already high. Does it need a charge at 5? It can kick on at midnight when there's no load. Everyone is snoozing at that point, right? And then you use that power. So it's not, the demand's low, supply is high, simple economics, and it works out. And so they're even looking at maybe ways to incentivize that use, right? Because it's cheaper for everyone in the long run if we start to keep that load where it's not doing this, but it's flatlining. So you can do that for water heaters, the same thing. How they heat, when they do that, a lot of different things that need to happen. Cooking ovens, factories running, instead of running during the day like everyone else does, maybe they're all cooking or preparing or turning on from midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, or whatever that looks like. So that's all happening.
I'll ask the same thing because it may be happening, but we continue to have to figure out how to make it happen.
It is, so it's
more.
technology, but a big part of it is going to be people, because in the end of the day, it's like, well, the heck with it, I want to get my stuff done. I don't really care. How does it really matter if I do it, right? Well, it's not about you doing it, but if every single person has that same philosophy, how do you ever meet that goal, right?
So planning for load balancing, incentivizing, and educating about it. I think if I look at what's in there right now, the bigger challenge is to encourage people about load balancing,
Yeah,
whether that's
understanding
incentives or education.
the demand and how that all works and how that impacts your bill. But if you make it inconvenient for someone, but there's no incentive for that inconvenience, we're humans. We're going to take the easy road, right, and plug in and do the things that we want to do. So that's always the challenge in trying to do that. So the technology is trying to get smarter so it does it for you. Set it and forget it.
So does that make sense if we think about how to change those sentences to talk about those factors, load balancing, whether that's incentivizing or education, or in a general sense? We're not saying here's the action to encourage that yet, because that would come down here in the back further. But I think it's a little more accurate about what the challenges are that we face is, so transmission projects across the state, those are out of our control. We are doing okay with what we have in terms of infrastructure in the village to handle what's coming in. And then the second factor is, so that part's out of our control. But the second factor is, how do we encourage people to do that load balancing, to consider the time of day that they're using? And there could be all kinds of tools in that realm.
I think adding that information gives better direction for where we might want to go and what goals we might, or like
Okay.
how we go about doing it. I think adding that information that you suggested would be really good.
Okay. Tracy, you had something?
I was just wondering if there is an incentive. If you decided to charge your car from midnight to 6, would you get a better rate than if you charged it from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock?
Right now, no. Our power that we purchase and everything all comes in at one single rate. So in order for us to do that, there would have to be the entire pipeline of energy from production, from generation to transmission to finally distribution would all have to be adjusted to meet that need. So right now, no, there wouldn't be, but they're looking at ways, maybe that's a possibility in the future to do that, and how, but it's gonna have to start from the beginning of the pipeline to the end.
Because I think that myth is out there that, oh, it's cheaper if you do it in the middle of the night. But I've heard that. But
It could be in some reasons, but I mean, if you look at, let's take electric heat, for example. Like if you didn't have to heat your house during the day, but you wanted to heat it during the nighttime, technically, if you're not going over in our scenario, in Fairport Electric scenario, if you're not peaking at the same time and you have the ability to just heat at night when it's not during the day, you might be able to stay underneath your preference power allocation, and you're not buying the supplemental power at a higher cost. So there's the ability to do that, but then again, who's willing to say, well, I'm willing to freeze for the greater good of the franchise? No one, as good as your hearts may be, will ever do that. And that's a simple example, but that goes to really almost anything. And if the business model says that, hey, I need to crank my ovens up and cook all my baked goods during the day because my customer base is at 5 o'clock, not if I cook all night long when power is not really being used, so now you can only buy at 6 a.m., it's a business model. So it's how do you go about doing that? Some things may work, some things may not.
The only place I've seen something like that is, I think with Tesla charging stations around the country, and some of the charging stations that if you want to come and charge at 2 in the morning, it's cheaper than if you charge at 5 in the afternoon or 7 in the morning.
Sure.
And that's how they're incentivizing that. It costs less to charge your vehicle. But I think it's
It happens other places. We
it's-
just don't have the capacity to do
Yeah.
that here.
But it's worthwhile to consider and to put
Sure.
in there that's something that as we move forward in the future, all of those things have to be considered.
Yep.
Okay, you just triggered something. So we have a daily usage, a monthly allotment. Is it broken down even further?
We don't have a monthly allotment. It's a daily allotment that's produced that we're guaranteed.
And it doesn't matter if you got a big house, little house, running a business, any
You're
of that?
you're allowed to use as much as you want, and once we hit for that daily allotment, because it tracks it for basically the 24 hours, what we get, and anything over that after 12:01 a.m. becomes a supplemental thing, right? So if we use, say for instance, we use 77 megawatts that day, which we didn't, but by 11 o'clock we've already used 83. Your difference between 83 and 77 would be your supplemental power that you're buying on the open market.
Just confirming though, as you had mentioned, whether it's residential or commercial, my understanding is there's a distinction in terms of how that's built.
There is,
Yeah.
and there's also a winter rate that's done as well. Some of our industrial customers have a rate set forth by New York Power Authority for incentivization of economic development, and having that there.
So when the collective good, everybody on Fairport Electric, we all together go over, everybody equally pays?
Once we go over, anyone that needs additional power, so say for instance, we went over our usage by noon, right? And you still got 12 hours of the day. I'm just using this as an example. Anyone still using power, if we don't have preference power left because we've consumed all of that, you'd be buying supplemental power. So for every kilowatt hour you choose to use above and beyond that allocation that's been exhausted, you would be paying that increased rate.
And that is individual.
Because you
No.
get your own individual bill.
Get your own individual bill, but it comes down to how much power you're using when that exhaustion rate happens, when that exhaustion time happens.
So if I didn't have power at my house at 12 noon, I wouldn't get charged
You wouldn't-
because
if
I'm
you
not
weren't
using
using
any
power,
power.
you wouldn't- yeah, you wouldn't share
But if
that.
I'm running a refrigerator and we hit that point at noon, I'll get charged for how much my refrigerator uses. Versus Sarah runs her air conditioning at full blast all the time. Sarah's probably got a bigger bill on her hands because she's going to use more power than I do.
Okay, so real quick here. I see these paragraphs as background introductory things,
They are.
and it's really the action steps that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, we
It's
could fill
interesting
in
to
all
learn
that stuff and all
how
that. Yeah.
how Fairport Electric works, but in terms of how, like what measures we go through.
We'll get there.
Well, no, I'm not.
Well, I think
guess
that
I'm
there's
confused
some
how
things in
where
here
this is
that-
going from a sustainability standpoint. The discussion about how we figure out who gets billed what at what point in time.
Yeah.
And what they. I'm more interested in how do we reduce our energy use.
And where I'm just looking at this is, are these paragraphs providing information that's useful, or is it not necessarily applicable?
I mean, I see it as
so-
background, like
Yeah,
all this stuff, like we're talking already about education, this is already in here.
Yep.
So, when you look at the older one, the 2010 one, there's one paragraph, and it's just, here's where we're coming from, and these are the things to do. So,
I think this will help us make better questions and understanding when we get there.
So let's move on to the next paragraph. And I think that's all about educating people about IEEP and rebates. And that comes into the actions or the possible actions that are going to come up. So we can take it offline and have somebody from Fairport Electric review this and make sure that it's accurate. Does that help? I mean, because I don't know the answers to necessarily everything that's in here, and all they're saying is there are rebates, and many people don't know about these programs. But the numbers.
Oh, they do.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But what is being stated in here is that many people don't know about these programs, and in terms of what's covered, I don't think we need to go look at the website or ask Brian to read through the website to tell us if everything is accurate in that paragraph. We can ask somebody from Fairport Electric to help us with that. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can clean up that line. So it's not state mandated, it's mandated by our NIMPA, New York Municipal Power Agency, that we sit on, Matt's a
So-
board
yeah,
member.
that's-
So I'm just saying.
Yeah, all that. We'll
I
clean
don't
all
think
that
we
up
need
and
to go
do
line
that.
by
It's
line
not
through that
accurate, but
paragraph.
Right, that's like something that staff will be able to look and be like, yes, this is accurate, we can leave.
we'll clean all that up if you guys want to keep it. It's not a big deal.
And I believe that website that's listed is accurate. The only questions I have before we go into the next section is, the last paragraph is about daylight harvesting or daylight response as an automatic lighting control system. Do we do anything with that?
No, so it's eventually stating that if I'm in a conference room and there's light coming through, I should not be using the lights. Well, technically right now, I can turn these lights off because we can open up these windows, but is it adequate for what you guys want to do to read this? Right? It's basically saying take advantage of those light sources if you can, but in the end of the day, office buildings are going to require additional supplemental lighting. Just like right now, I can open up that door, open up all these things, put the screen up, and we'll have light technically. Is it technically work and we're harvesting that light for use in our business? Sure. Is it adequate for what we want to do? That's up to you as the user.
And, yeah, so what I don't think that this is, while it's there, And
But it's
I understand what they're getting
taking
at.
advantage of that,
I don't think
using
it's anything
skylights.
that we can impact from a village perspective.
I mean, I'm just gonna come back to, I think we can, but that's where we get into the action discussion.
Okay.
All right, I just think that we don't have any building codes that are gonna say you have to put in this kind of lighting.
There are energy
Or-
efficiency standards that the state puts out per
But
code.
we don't have control over it.
No, we do
That's
not.
what I'm saying. So, while they're put out by the state, I don't think as a village, we have the ability to change or tell people, okay, New York State says you have to do one thing, we want you to do even more. We can't necessarily, we don't have any code that represents that.
No, I agree, and that's why, if you look at the action, it's just review village-owned building meeting and office space for potential adoption of daylight harvesting. So it's, so that's why I'm just saying, like, to me, these are, it's helpful to frame the discussion. But I think the real meat and potatoes of this are the actions.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I think we just made it through that front part, and let's move on. So village accomplishments, these are from the appendix list, and there's like 5 that they included that were done. So when we get to the list of action steps that start with 1.1, those were pulled from the original document. Those are not the new stuff. So at some point, we need to go through and determine if those are of use to keep in this document, or if we say, because I think there's one in here, 1.6 says gradually move to using natural gas in village facilities. Because natural gas in 2010 was the most efficient way to heat your building. It's now no longer
is.
the desired state.
Still is.
It still is, but it's no longer a desirable choice based on the impact that it has
Yep.
to the environment.
Correct.
So that's why I'm like, at some point, we need to go through these and go, okay, this really isn't applicable to where we are now. But these were all a lift directly from the 2010 document. Why don't we go to the updated proposed action steps, and those are from the new grouping. So daylight harvesting, the item underneath that was review village-owned building, meeting, and office space for potential adoption of daylight harvesting, allocating funding for vendor to install such a system. I don't know if that's something that we have the ability to do. I guess if money was no object, Brian, would that be something that we would do or not do?
So for me, when I see this, I understand, like, daylight harvesting, that becomes a little trickier on an existing building, but there's certain things we could do, like occupation sensors. Like when you walk in, lights turn off, on or off automatically. Those are some of the things that I think,
And I think there are rooms inside this building that those have been set up. And
Yeah, that's great.
unfortunately, I wish that it was not set up that way in my office without a light switch, because there's a lot of times when I'm
Oh.
sitting in there and there's,
having the right system for that, yes, because
so,
I'm sure there's times you sit there and if you're not moving, it thinks nobody's
so
moving.
maybe it's maybe we think about this. Go ahead, Tracy. What's your question?
We're not going to go through the action steps?
Well, that's where we are. We're at
the updated one.
proposed action
So
steps.
these are the ones from the 2010, and then this is from the current one.
It starts at the table.
But I mean, I guess, are you saying, like, go through the ones from 2010 to make sure that we've done those, or are we saying that?
I think that our staff can very easily go through document which ones have been done, which ones are not done, and which ones are no longer applicable.
We've done that already, and I can provide you that. We
Yeah,
provided that
'cause-
to the Sustainability Committee.
That's why
At
I
the
moved
time.
us to the updated proposed action steps. So for me, next to the daylight harvesting, maybe items underneath that are automatic light switches when applicable.
Yeah, occupancy sensor, yeah, like you said, finding the right ones that fit how spaces are being used. Because yeah, I've been in that situation before too, where you're sitting there and you've just been focusing and suddenly all the lights turn off.
Then you have to wave your arms.
Yep, I was gonna say, and then you wave your
Well, the
arms.
sensor in that office is not in the right place for where I'm sitting at the desk.
Oh.
So when I'll be on calls with people, I'll be like
Yeah,
waving my arm to get the lights to go back on because it's too dark in there.
yeah, so it's getting the right one then.
So what I added is underneath the items, automatic light switches when applicable. Was there anything else that you thought that we could add, Adam? I don't have anything else for that.
Now this is me not being able to remember which one was where. Okay, yeah, I see update heating controls. I know some places I think we've been able to do that, other places not as much, right? So, or no. So for example, like programming them, just knowing like, hey,
We have all that done. Everything that you're discussing, everything is automated here. This building is not heated and cooled at night to when it's occupied. It kicks on, like for heat. When I get here at 7 in the morning, building isn't open till 8, there's no heat. I got to kick it on in my office. And it kicks on like 15 minutes before when everybody starts to get here. So by the time you get here, it's somewhat comfortable.
all right,
And they do that for air conditioning, for heat. Lights are off. All the controls are updated. We have mini splits. Everything's been converted to this entire village. Interior to buildings, exterior to buildings, all streets,
Okay.
all lights. Everything has been converted to the most efficient thing we can do possible.
Gotcha.
When we buy new HVAC systems, they are as efficient as we can get that makes sense at the time. This building, just due to its being old and a brick veneer and doesn't have deck work because it was built 125 years ago, right? So everything's a mini split in offices, which when you're having a decentralized HVAC system, it's not as efficient as you think, right? Because if I'm saying, for instance, if this is all mini split here, which it's not because your conductors are up there, if I'm trying to keep this building at 65 degrees because you guys are hot in here, but those doors are open and that outside, the hallway is being set at 80, this never shuts off because it's compensating for out there, right? So
right.
there's built-in inefficiencies by the very nature of buildings. Older buildings are just really hard to update to today's current standards and ideologies.
And I can say for, gosh, that was maybe 2021 that we had a grant and we replaced all the windows in this building. Like, so they were all as efficient as we could get for the building. Anything else that you want to add for that one right there? We can move on to the next ones.
And we even went and insulated this building, which it had no insulation. None at the top. We did all of that.
So the next part is education rebate programs, FMC. Promote already existing rebate programs offered by FMC by such methods as, how do we want to do this? Because that's a lot of, it's a lot of choices that are all about education. Do we want to go through them one by one? creating a sign with wording announcing energy savings with a QR code linking the Village of Fairport IEE rebate webpage hung above the FMC bill pay kiosk in the rear vestibule.
I think
of-
this, for efficiency, we can go through this type of stuff and provide you with what
So
makes sense,
do you
what
want to just
doesn't.
keep
or
it
whatever. Yeah,
as,
we can.
let's go to there's the promote the already existing rebate programs and have our team go
We can
through
do that.
and just validate some of those. You know, creating a sticker campaign in conjunction with the Merchants Association and the Chamber of Commerce, encouraging business in Parrington area to place small stickers on their entrance doors. We can talk about it with people, but that's completely up to them if they want to do any of that thing.
Right.
And I think probably a lot of these things in terms of promotion can be done, whether it's through if people are coming to the kiosk to pay, or if it's on your electric bill, or if it shows up when you go online to pay your bill, like if those things are on there someplace. That might be the most efficient way to do it rather than flyers and paper and all that stuff.
I mean, I feel like some of this almost like it just kind of sums up with like having some sort of, I don't know if you'd want to call it like communications or education campaign, like a low-key one that just kind of happens each year. And then so like, what do we do? It means like maybe once a quarter, twice a year or something like that. You make sure that some of these flyers or something go around, or some sort of an alert like, hey, don't forget you can do this. But I think that's what a lot of this could be summed up into. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's some cool ideas here. I mean, like I like the idea of the sign, you know, when somebody's coming in to pay for the bill, you know, make sure you could alert them that way. But there might be other ways that come up in the future too that we can,
So I'm taking it,
Consider.
or could some of these be done quarterly?
right, or within some sort of an education/communication campaign that just becomes part of
A yearly thing that we do.
right. So it's almost like in some ways it's like a set it and forget it type of thing. We just know that X month something comes out. Because the other thing I'm thinking too is, you know, with these it's great, but you know, it takes time for, you know, staff to put them together. And if it can be something that's at least somewhat automated, then it does, you know, enable us to communicate those things while minimizing the just the extra time that everybody else has going on. Because you know, we know Jason's going bananas, and everybody at Fairport Electric is working tough each year. So I hate just to say like, hey, here's a fire, let's take another log and see you later.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm seeing that some of this can go into the Parrington flyers they send out to the rec. You know, I think every resident in the Village of Fairport gets one of those, so you do a page in there. I mean, they do pages about, you know, the electronic recycling and updates and rabies and everything else. I mean, you can, there's information, so
Yeah.
you just stick it in there. Working smarter, not harder
I'm
on that.
writing it down, and it's a question that we can pose to the town of Parrington.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's not a bad idea too, because it's not just the folks in Fairport that are
Right,
making use of
Fairport.
Fairport Electric.
Yeah.
A huge hunk of Parrington. Yeah,
So
they're the bulk of
making
that
sure the
customer.
word gets
Yeah.
out to folks outside the village too. So.
Yeah,
Right.
but you know, people, we just doubled our IEP millage from 1 to 2, so we just doubled it. It went into effect March, April, and it went from like getting $450,000 a year on average in energy efficiency funds to do programs and projects and rebates and those types of things to $900,000 to $1 million, and we still can't keep up. There's more requests for that than what we get money to do. I mean, every month it's $8,000 just in appliance rebates, and then we have rebates associated with mini splits, and we have rebates associated with people doing a lot of bang for buck is really insulation projects, right? Our housing stock's old. That's where the bang for the buck, especially when you have the places that have a significant electric heat load. It's everything almost, right? So making sure your building envelope is in good shape.
Yeah, mine turns 150 this year.
The best thing you can
I don't,
do
I don't
to
think
your
the
house
R value
is
is particularly
yeah,
high.
I mean,
on
the best thing
those.
you can do is not replacing your windows or anything else. Insulate the heck out of the attic, make it an R60, put 2.5 feet of cellulose in there and call it a day. It's the best thing all of you can do for your home, and that's $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever versus all these other things that, you may get an energy efficiency furnace that goes from 90% efficient to 95, whatever. In the scheme of what it's really doing, not a whole lot, right? If you're changing something that's 40 years old, it's a big difference, but all of that makes sense.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so what I captured from that part of the conversation is look for ways using tools that are available through the town of Perrington in their, I don't know if that's a quarterly newsletter. It's separate from the Parks and Rec. They have
They started
a
that.
quarterly newsletter.
Just to do some sustainable marketing.
And ask if we can include that kind of information, even though we don't have enough money to pay out after a while.
We can make it.
And look for additional ways to market these, whether that's at the kiosk, and we'll ask our team to consider, are there ways that are listed here that they could include?
Yeah, and actually, one thing, if we could add one thing, as our staff is looking at this too, I'd be curious to know if off the top of their head, if they know or they know of a resource where you could identify almost like most bang for your buck. So in other words, if one of our goals here is to just in general, reduce our energy consumption, which is one of the best ways to, be sustainable as we're moving forward, regardless of regardless of where the energy is coming from, right? Because it's always reduce, reuse, recycle. This is with energy. If they're able to identify the things that, reduce your power usage the most, that would be, if I'm just trying to think, if that were me saying like, oh wow, if I did this, that's gonna save me the most on my electric bill.
It's 100% insulation.
And if you look at the next topic,
100%.
Yeah.
the next
best thing you
thing
can do.
is education on residential insulation program.
There we go.
Over anything else that's out there, none of it matters. None of it hits the impact that
Right.
insulation does.
But, like let's say, somebody's already done that, but what's the next best thing I could do? Do that. So maybe that's something else we could include as part of the education aspect.
So the answer to the education on residential insulation program is to verify the program and the status of the current program and update the website, because all they're saying is it doesn't exist as something on the website, which we can take care of that in a pretty quick order. I would leave it there, and it's an easy, low-hanging fruit check. Collaboration with the town of Perrington. As the FMC service delivery area exists outside of the village, encompassing most of the town of Perrington and Fairport schools, any future Fairport Sustainability Board should work with the town of Perrington Sustainability Board as well as the Fairport School District Sustainability Committee in developing and executing common goals towards sustainable energy practices. I'm going to leave that as a question mark because we don't know what we're going to do with a sustainability committee or board or anything like that. I think this comes down to TBD, to be determined. But I think collaboration within the town of Perrington, we just covered some. I think there are other things that we can do that are collaborating with the town of Perrington and the school district, just like there are some other things that'll come up further down the road in other chapters. We should look for ways that we can collaborate together, whether that be education about programs, or anything. I don't have any other ideas about that right now, but we just talked about how we could collaborate with the town of Perryton. And we should just be open to looking for additional ideas. Does that sound
Sounds good to
fair
me.
at this point?
Yes.
Okay. That's the last table because I didn't get any of these other things into tables. So I'm going to ask you all, as a time check, we've just done an hour on Chapter 1. Chapter 2 is very short. And I think Chapter 3 is probably very short because those are just lifted from the old document. So my suggestion is that we keep going for a while longer. And when you all want to say uncle or auntie or whatever, we can take a pause and come back. And we can send off these first 3 or 4 chapters, whatever we get through, to get some feedback on it. And then we'll pick it up and start working on more at the next work session meeting. So 2010 procurement goal, which was not included in the update, seek to purchase goods or services that reduce the use of energy and pollution in their manufacture, use of, and disposal, have lower transportation costs, contain sustainable and or bio-based ingredients, do not contain ingredients known to be harmful to humans, and that are shipped in biodegradable or recycling packaging. So that paragraph just describes the policy, and under village accomplishments, the Village of Fairport is generally constrained to purchase goods at the lowest price established by a bid or comparison. Within this constraint, purchases are made in a sustainable manner as possible, such as by using life cycle costs, specifying recycled content where practical, or other means. And then there's a series of steps. Do we want to ask, since this is lifted from the 2010, do we want to ask staff to just go through and say, what are we doing? What of these steps are evergreen, so we just leave them there? Because we're always trying to look for this as a goal in how we operate when possible. Or there may be some things that have reached the end of life on one of these. Does that sound like something that you would want to do? Because, for example, using green cleaning practices and products in village facilities, that's kind of an evergreen thing. You don't say, okay, we did it once, and now in 5 years, who cares what we do?
And for the most part, we do all that now. We actually
Yeah.
don't use any harsher chemicals just due to the chemical ratings of those things and labels, and we have to, the MSD books and everything that we have to keep for all these things are out there, but we don't use any of those types of products now. We purchase anything we can that's efficient, that makes sense, per the mayor. All our vehicles, to the most part, where it makes sense, are hybrid or something that we buy the right vehicle for the right usage, right? We're not driving 1-ton vehicles to go drive to Vermont to a conference or whatever, that type of stuff. So we're doing all those types of things for the most part. You should always be looking to do those things where it makes sense anyway.
I think these are evergreen
Mhm,
action
they
steps. And
It's good to keep it in there just as a reminder and
I
to say,
think
hey, this
so.
is something we
And
believe in.
even with the goal, like, the thing about these goals is they don't just go away because somebody created this document. They should be engaged and input into how we do business as a community. And that while we're always looking to improve, there's some base things that we consider when we do things. For example, this list of action steps.
Just out of curiosity, because it might be nice to get that information out there, our fleet of vehicles, let's say FMC as well as DPW, what percentage of those cars and trucks and vehicles are hybrid or electric?
Electric's almost 100% hybrid or electric. Public Works is a little different because it's heavy equipment. But we have like 2 pickup trucks that have a hybrid component to them right now in Public Works. Most of the other things are things like, we have 1 ton or heavier duty trucks for snow plowing, which is really hard to get an energy efficiency sense. Dump trucks, backhoes, flatbed, 2-ton vehicles, things like that. They don't make it, and they don't really apply to that type of work. But where we can, we do purchase it. But as far as electric, even like there are bucket trucks. Those are all hybrid, meaning the truck doesn't have to run when the vehicle's stationary. The boom's up and they're working, so it's not sitting there idling for 8 hours while I'm on the line, right? So now you can hear people because the truck's not running a diesel engine. You're not getting all that smog and all that breathing that in while you're there. So it makes sense, right? And it's a lot nicer of a practice. But like the electric, we've looked at electric line trucks. They're twice the cost of these things. We're talking about over $600,000-700,000 for one that I can buy now for $350,000. And they just don't have a long shelf life, especially when you're out there in the elements in the dead of winter in February. So it's hard to justify something like that. But for what we're doing and our franchise being the size that it is, what we're doing really makes a lot of sense.
I was just going to throw up there the discussion about police vehicles because,
They're all hybrid.
yeah, but it took a long time to get to hybrid, and I don't think there's anything that's ready to go that's straight electric vehicle that has the capacity to do what we need it to do.
They have them. You just need to have a larger fleet to hot seat those things the way we do, day in and day out, all day long, 8-hour shift, a lot of idle time for those types of things. And again, you lose a lot of efficiency in the winter. And then you'd have to get some pretty direct DC chargers behind the station. I mean, we got the NIPA ones over there, but no one's going to park over there and keep walking back and forth all day long. That infrastructure over there alone is probably close to $1 million when it comes to the transformers, the electric grid to get to it, and then the actual charging stations themselves, which have already been replaced now twice. So any savings you might have made, you just keep upgrading the infrastructure over there. So, there's pros and cons to all of that. But yeah, all our vehicles right now are hybrid for police. We've looked at electric various vehicles, and our officers have went and sat in them and stuff. They're just not there yet, and they need the room and the bulk. They got their belts on and doing all those other types of things. But these things really do well for us. I mean, we're getting really good mileage out of our hybrid vehicles. They're lasting, which I was surprised that didn't think they would, but they're doing really well.
Okay.
And that's all you can really get now, especially with the Ford Explorers. That's all they make for a police interceptor is a hybrid now. It's all they offer.
It's just great public relations, getting that information out there in nuggets that we're already there and we've been doing this. Like, did you know that 100% of our vehicles are either hybrid or electric?
Our motorcycle's fully electric. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Julie. A lot of these are evergreen. I think one thing that, if we rephrase just a few of them, just to even show like we are making progress, I mean, 2.3, utilize green cleaning practices and products in village facilities. I'd almost rephrase that to be, establish a procedure for establish a procedure for green cleaning practices and products, and continue to follow it. So we've done that. We've established a procedure, like you said. We already know the types of products that we're using, and it's there. Yes, it's evergreen, but we have established a procedure or process for that.
Continue to use evergreen products where necessary.
Yeah, and that's what 2.3 is getting at.
That's great.
Right, because what we're doing is we're looking to set up an infrastructure within that can continue into the future, with whoever needs to pick up the ball whenever it's time to pick up the ball.
Okay. No, I think that's great. And we can look at those and phrase them that way. Like, continue to purchase vehicles which are the most efficient in their class, which use alternate fuels to the maximum extent viable.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've been doing and will continue to do. And who's to say that some breakthrough doesn't come in 3 or 4 years that says we can have a fully electric police car and it's going to work just great. And charging is not a problem. You can just plug it in the back of the, I'm making it up, obviously, and
Right.
but we don't know what's gonna come down the road. So, I think that rephrasing those
Yeah.
is very helpful.
Or like, in I see 2.2, minimize the waste to maximize the recycling. That's incredibly vague.
Yeah, but this is procurement too, remember that.
Right.
This is procurement. There's other areas where we're gonna see some replication of some of these
Fair enough.
different things.
I'm just saying, like, if it's helpful if we could set goals, because then that provides direction for folks. I'm not saying we set the goals, because I don't know what that number,
Sure.
what bad is and what better is, but, that's where, in my mind I go, set a goal for waste reduction and recycling, and work to pursue those or something, I don't know.
That's a good idea. This is in procurement, so this
Yeah.
again is purchasing. But perhaps in another
Well, maybe it doesn't
chapter.
make sense in here then.
We can go through it and see what's kind of valid or feasible and kind of make some
Yeah.
recommendations on whether there needs to be things included or not, I
Yeah.
think, without you spending a lot of time on it.
Because, maximize waste, or maximize recycling on procurement. I'm not
Okay,
sure what that
so
means, but yeah, okay.
do you feel comfortable if we move to number 3?
Yep.
Okay, this is another short one, or it should be pretty short. Yeah. Green cleaning goal, so this was one that was brought from the old document to the new document. Clean and maintain village facilities with products that are free from known or suspected toxins. I think this is, again, another evergreen goal. And that's what that background paragraph talks about, is what is not green cleaning or how to achieve green cleaning. And then I'm looking. Okay, sustainability and green concerns are considered when making cleaning and maintenance decisions. For example, low volatility organic paint was used in the recent Village Hall interior paint project. That was probably a while ago. But action steps discourage the use of plastic water bottles in village facilities. So I think a line underneath here is there's now an installed bottle fill station down on the first floor. But doesn't mean that we don't stop discouraging it and encouraging reusable drinking items. Use environmentally friendly cleaning materials in the village facilities. Use low volatile. So I think these are established procedures that we use today. Eliminate the use of herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers containing phosphates and other harmful chemicals. That's something that's built into how we do business. Integrate outdoor and indoor pest control. I don't know. I don't know that I want to know.
I don't know if I've ever seen the Orkin man here.
Okay,
Probably should, but yeah,
I don't know what that means either.
We're getting cats.
there you go.
No, because they have their own waste products that you have to deal with. Consider an alternative to salt, sodium chloride for treatment, prevention of ice on sidewalks and entry into village facilities. We do use alternatives when possible. Well, I think that we use alternatives when possible,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
okay.
I would say 3.3 at this point. I don't know of any non-industrial paint that is not low VOC. I mean, we'd have to be painting the inside of a factory in order to get VOC paints these days, so.
Well, we could still leave it as, it's a guideline.
Continue to
Okay.
use.
Well, they're always continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's different levels of, I've seen different levels when you go to the paint store. This one's really, really no VOCs. This one's a little bit of VOCs. I think you can find ones that say, I don't have any, I have just a little. But how about continue to use low VOC paint?
Sure.
Okay. So number 4,
Might be a big one.
I think that those chapters at the front are gonna require doing some reading. Do you want an assignment for our next meeting to go through and read this and write notes on it? And we'll start at number 4. We still have an executive session to get to tonight.
I'm good with that. This one seems like it's a big one.
Building 4, so what you see at the end of that, when it gets to village goals in 2022, that's from the new plan. Village accomplishments, that's, if you went to Appendix A on the back of this document, you'd see some of those in there. I did not bring forward the whole list that came from this chapter in the 2010 plan. This is what the team put in here. So maybe we look at on our own chapter 4, chapter 5, and chapter 6 and come ready to discuss those at the next meeting. Does that sound like a fair assignment? What do you think, Mrs. Nazarian?
I actually nerdily read all of it already.
Okay, well,
So I'm
you're an
not-
overachiever. Y'all are overachievers.
Well, that's a nice way of putting it, but yes, that sounds like perfect. I'll read it again.
So, well, now you also know what we're gonna discuss when we come in. So 4, 5, 6, and for bonus point 7, and we'll be most of the way through the document. And then we'll have 8 recycling, composting, 9 environmental toxins, which is again a lift, so it's really short, and 10, which is really short as well. All right, so I've taken notes from what we've discussed. I'm gonna pass along the parts that we've already discussed to the staff to review and give us some answers on, or some guidance on. I shouldn't say answers, but guidance. And then when we meet at the end of this month, we'll do 4, I'm gonna circle them because I'll never remember. 4, 5,
And 6.
7 is bonus.
6, and try and do 7. And then we can discuss them in that meeting, and we'll be most of the way there, and we never know. We may be able to get to the end of this in the next meeting, if
Ma'am, will
we
you
pre-read
email me-
that.
Will you email me this document?
Pardon me?
Will you email me the document you created?
I will.
Thank you, ma'am.
I will. Do you want it as a Word doc? Okay, I can absolutely do that. All right. 7's a long one. Okay. Thank you for everybody sharing their questions and their input and feedback. And if you would be nice to the clerk's treasurer's office, please leave your highlighter and I'll go put them back from where I stole them from tonight.
Oh, not a gift. Pass them back.
Unless you really need one at home.
No, I
I,
brought my own.
You can keep them if you need them. You can buy more.
I know, but we're trying to be
Sustainable.
we're trying to be sustainable.
See what
All
I
right.
did there?
I like it.
You did just great. Okay, so that's where we are with that. We are going to move to executive session in just a moment, at which point we will move into the conference room. And then we will not have any more business that will be conducted. We will come out and we will end the meeting. So I'm gonna state that our upcoming meetings are, there's a village board meeting on Monday, June 8th at 6 PM here in Village Hall. There's a village board work session Monday, June 22nd, at which point we will discuss those chapters that we just talked about at 6 PM. And all meetings are subject to change, amendment, or cancellation by determination of the village board. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law and the employment history of particular individuals. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
By trustee Wojka,
Second.
by trustee Briggs. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Then that will be unanimous, and that was at 7:25. So we will move to executive session, and then, once we're done with that, we will come back out and officially adjourn the meeting. Okay.
What?
Somebody's just very interested in sustainability. So it's like, oh, we're getting to it. We're getting to it, yes. Oh, Julie.
There you go. Thank you.
Actually, it was kind of neat. There was somebody I was talking to the other day.